So for our 17th class, we have a bit of a heavy topic here. Creating the culture of British North America, 1689 to 1754. Now, if I look at this with high school eyes, if I walk in the shoes of a high school student, I might look at that and say, holy shnikes, that's a little bit intimidating. And then I see the pages associated with it. 108 to 121, 13 pages of heavy academic reading. Oh my goodness, what am I going to do? Now, what I hope separates my AP students from everybody else is that you don't get intimidated. You do not get scared, that you face it head on and you figure it out. And here's my logic. If you can figure it out as a high school student, you can continue using it all the way to university and throughout the rest of your life. Okay, so 108 to 121, it's a lot. So right out of the gates, I'm going to chunk them into 5 things. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I'm also going to hit you with 2 expressions. They are hokey, they are corny. You very well may give me some grief. I will take the grief. And expression number 1, how do you eat an elephant? 1 bite at a time. And then the second expression, you don't just give somebody a fish, you teach them how to fish. Okay, so those expressions I think you'll see hold true as I go through this video. So the topic, creating the culture of British North America. Well, first of all, you may not know what culture means, so in case you don't, I'm going to hit you with it here. Culture consists of the values, beliefs, systems of language, communication, and practices that people share in common and that can be used to define them as a collective. In other words, I'm a collective. I am part of this group. I'm part of this country or this state or this organization. Now, culture also includes the material objects that are common to that group or society. These are the physical objects that you can tell what culture somebody is part of. And this little visual here can be, every culture has art, drama, music, attitudes, beliefs, language, customs, ritual, behavior, faith, religion, and food. Can I give you a little life advice before I get into the history stuff? When you travel, investigate the culture of the place you travel to so you can respect it and not be the ugly American that embarrasses our country. And in my travels, unfortunately, I have seen some of the ugly American, and I don't want any of you to be that person. Be a person when you travel that you respect the cultures of where you travel to. Okay, that's a little life advice. Okay, so first expression, how do you eat an elephant? 1 bite at a time. So I looked at these 13 pages and I pretended I was in high school. I pretended I was an APUSH here. And I said, okay, well, these 13 pages have 5 different themes. Okay, 5 is easier than 13 pages. Okay, the role of cities, economic practices, social systems, the role religion played, and then wars and alliances. So if you can trim it down to 5 things, your brain can handle 5 things. Your brain cannot handle memorizing every word of 13 pages unless you are exceptionally gifted. I don't meet too many people who can do that. Okay, so these pages, that's the elephant in this metaphor. So we're going to break them down into some parts. Okay. Now, how we're going to do this, we're going to go old school. It may work for some, it might not work for others. I am not offended if you go through this drill and say, oh my goodness, it does not work for me. But a lot of you are going to say, oh, this is perfect. This is how you break down heavy academic stuff. Okay, so an outline method, there's a main topic with a Roman numeral, a subtopic with a letter A, and then a number. Okay, an Arabic numeral number for your thought or supporting fact. Now, this is a technique that's very traditional. It works for many. I'm not saying it's the most fun thing in the world, but in my opinion, it's a necessary skill for university or some form of note-taking. And AP students generally go to university. You have to master taking notes. University is so much note-taking, you won't even believe it. It's a lot of fun. Believe me, it's a lot of fun. But it's a lot of work as well. Okay, so I gave an example here. So the Roman numeral, the growth of cities. And then if you look at your book, they mentioned 4 cities. And then I put a little thing. They became the most populated, and with their population, it increased their wealth and influence. And then once I went through this section, then I moved on to the second section, okay, which was called commercial success. And it broke into mercantilism, that sort of thing. So this next part of the video is for the absent students, just to give you a quick overview of the topics that were covered, okay? Now, one more point before we move on. When you are taking these notes, vocabulary is hugely important, okay? Understanding vocabulary is essential to performing well in school. So you need to have some means of handling your vocabulary, whether you highlight it in your notes, whether you underline it. I've had people write their vocab words in a different color. Those are the rainbow glittery pen people. they're out there, by the way. Some people make separate note cards. Some people buy purchase sets for AP, which is not a bad purchase. There's word walls where you put all your vocab. There's a lot of ways you can handle vocab, and believe me, I'm going to hit you with a lot of vocab in our boot camp leading right up to our test, okay? And here's a little evidence to my point, okay? And here's the link. I don't want to be a hypocrite. There you go. Of how much vocab people learn during the course of their academics. Vocab is hugely important. So make sure in your notes that you are accounting for that, okay? So I'm going to zip through this because you can do this on your own. So the growth of cities. Cities have always been the engines of civilization, okay, throughout time. Even when you look at, we started off as human beings as hunting and gathering, and then about 13,000 years ago, we settled, become agrarian man. 5,000 years ago, we became civilized. Cities is number one on that list of what requires civilization, or what civilization requires, I should say. Cities are immensely important. Here, a quick mental exercise. Think of the cities in America. Take away 10 of them, would we function? Okay, it's like a car without an engine. So the question is, Philadelphia, New York, Boston, and Charleston, why were they so important? I have traveled to all four. And believe me, Philadelphia, get the Philly cheesesteak. New York, get an egg cream. Boston, go to North Boston, the Italian district, get some good Italian food. Charleston, shrimp and grits. I'm a fat guy, of course I remember the food, okay? There's me in Charleston, and you can see kind of the antebellum look of Charleston, okay? So section 1, why were these cities so important? Section 2, these economic practices, okay? Mercantilism, capitalism, the triangular trade route, the new trading economy. We've already learned about these from a prior lesson. This is a reiteration, but again, as America gets bigger and stronger, we become a player. We become a player in this economy. When we were baby America, not so much, but as we get bigger, as we get stronger, we start doing our own thing in the trading economy. Okay, that's section 2. Section 3 is social systems. Okay, now compared to Britain, the American colonies become less and less structured. Okay, these divisions like are in Britain are less so in America. So what happens is this is a precursor to this ideal all men are created equal as penned in the Declaration of Independence. And as we have lesser divisions, we become more unified, and you can read between the lines. We eventually unified to become our own country. But colonial society, you had a small upper class, you had some farmers, some tradesmen, some indentured servants, and then slaves. That's the fundamental structure, and you'll see that in your reading. Now, the fourth part of this reading is the religious landscape. And they talk about the halfway covenant and the first great awakening. Now, the halfway covenant was this idea, and we've mentioned it before, that, hey, you might not be fully elect, but you can still be part of the church. It's a little more ecumenical, a little more inclusive. And then we get into the first great awakening. It's this revival of religion that takes over America, and it was almost a counter to the Enlightenment, okay? And this division is still very much with us, okay? It's essentially the division of faith and reason, okay? So if you look at the Great Awakening, clearly this is on the side of faith, and the Enlightenment's clearly on the side of reason. Now, this debate, way back old school, is still around today. You look at abortion, prayer in school, creationism versus Darwinism being taught, medical ethics, for example. Hey, I don't want you doctors and nurses to perform the procedure on my kid. We're going to pray over them. Are they allowed to do that? Gay marriage, contraception, security measures. For example, in school, you can't wear your hood, so we can see on security cameras. Do we make somebody who is a Muslim woman take down her hijab or her burqa to be seen, or is that her religious right to wear those things? Wearing masks during COVID times, remember that. People know, I don't need to wear a mask. The blood of Jesus protects me, and this sort of thing. Do we let those people do that? So this debate still goes on today, and it's a heated debate, and it's not going anywhere. This debate's been in America the whole time. And then number 5, the ongoing wars. And what I did is I took a chart. So when you're taking traditional notes, when you see a chart, they probably did the heavy lifting for you. So you can take a chart and just break that down. And sometimes you can do it without having to read the words because they do the heavy lifting. So charts, in a way, the way I look at them, is a bit of a gift, quote unquote, in terms of that, okay? And last point, in terms of the note-taking, look for what's emphasized. Now, your book emphasized 2 things heavily. Therefore, it's probably important. The Yamasee Wars and the Albany Plan of Union. And the Yamasee Wars was when a group of Indians were trying to drive all the whites out of South Carolina. It didn't work real well, and it caused the Yamasee to leave or seek peace. Didn't work out, but so this paradigm that's been set that Indian tribes fight Europeans and then they get moved. You'll see this happen again and again. Then the Albany Plan of Union was when there was this group, William Shirley, you probably haven't heard of. You've heard of Benjamin Franklin, the guy on the $100 bill, where he wanted to get together to manage defense. And we're starting to see the seeds of unity being planted here, okay? So anyway, to wrap things up, okay, the how to fish part. Organizing and emphasizing what's important through note-taking is an essential academic skill. So hopefully by me showing you this, maybe you already knew how to do it, but that's the how to fish part. Now the fish part, the content, there were significant cultural changes from 1689 to 1754 in terms of cities, the economy, social systems, religion, and wars. Hopefully you have a breakdown of those 5 areas, and then the logistical part. The notes you take will be your assignment. There's nothing else to do. Simply turn them into me, and that's all well and good. Okay? I know I ran a little bit long, and hopefully this technique bears some fruit for you, and I appreciate you watching.